My name is Jean Marie Torrence. I was born on May the 11th, 1925, in Gaston County at the Old City Hospital. Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Welcome to Point of Rock Studio and 90 over 90. I'm Janice Holly Booth, and it is my distinct pleasure and privilege today to have with us one of the most feisty and interesting women I know, Jean Marie Torrence. Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Glad you're here. Now, Jean was born on May 11th, 1925, here in Gaston County, 91 and a half years ago. And Jean is really a remarkable person on a number of levels. At a time in society when women were expected to get married, settle down, become domesticated, and have children, Jean chose instead to live life as a single independent woman. She also started and ran her own successful business, which was really unheard of at the time. Women just didn't do that. They didn't do it in the United States, and they certainly didn't do it in the South. And so, Jean, we're going to talk a little bit about your business later on.
Okay.
But right now, what I'd like you to tell us about is what it was like as a little girl to grow up in Gaston County when Franklin Boulevard was still a dirt road.
Well, we lived in Hillcrest, which is the opposite end of town. And we were right close to Victory School. So when it came time to go to school, I went uptown to Central, which is still there. And we did not move until 1936 out to Franklin Boulevard. Now, it was not a dirt road when we moved out there, but we were outside the city limits. We were never brought into the town itself until 1948, which was nice. You didn't have to pay a lot of tax. So that worked out very well.
And of course, as a little girl, you were worried about tax situations.
No, not quite. But you do get brought into that with the family. And so we were fine. And everything, we were great. We really had a wonderful neighborhood. The Gurneys, the Goldbergs at that time, changed their name to Gurney. They had the big red brick houses next to us, and it is huge, and it's lots of fun. And we played over there, and we played everywhere else, but the way Charlton and I, my brother, got to know everybody, we crawled through all the bushes and sat where they would see us. And then they asked us to come over and join them, and we did. And we were all friends after that. So everything worked fine. And we had a marvelous yard for egg hunts, for everything we did. We played baseball in the backyard. We played football in the front yard. And I played tackle football till I was 18 years old. And I broke a rib. My brother tackled me, and I hit a rock. So that took care of that. And it was just wonderful neighborhood. Everybody played, everybody had a good time, and it was fun. It really was.
Now, I understand that the carnival used to come to town and set up where Acres is now.
Yeah, it was always the big thing.
And you weren't supposed to go, but you went anyway. Tell us about that.
Oh, mercy, Percy. My daddy had threatened us and told us that we could not go down while they were setting up on Sunday. Well, John Cocker lived right below me, and he had a bicycle. He came up and he said, "Your daddy will never know that we've gone." He said, "Just jump on the back of the bicycle." I said, "Well, I really don't think I should go." But he talked me into it. And so we went flying down through there, and we were just looking at some of the things they were putting up. And about that time, here came my dad and my brother. My brother had told him where I'd gone. Charlton was a bad tattletale. He always was a good boy. And so anyway, he grabbed me, and off we went back to the house, and we always had to go pick our own switches. He switched you. Mama used a hairbrush. So he would grab my hand, and I would start running. And I'd go round and round, and he'd go round and round trying to catch up with me. And so we did all that. But it was real cute because once we finished, he grabbed Charlton and spanked him for telling on me. So that worked out pretty good. And we had quite a few incidents like that, but everything worked out.
Well, now, there's a funny story about the carnival. The cars used to park in a field near your house, and you had a little parking scam going on.
Well, the Mr. Moore that owned Moore and Stewart, he always loaned us his house. It was right next to the fairground, and he would let us park cars for 25 cents a car. And we were just doing fine. And this one fella came in, and he slammed the door, locked it, and went off. And we said, it's a quarter. You have to pay a quarter to park here. And he said, I'm not thinking about paying you a quarter, and walked on off. So we got busy, and we got a whole bunch of sand, and we put it in his gas tank. It took him 3 days to get that car off the lot. But we never saw him again anyway.
Did you get switched for that too?
No, they thought that was very good.
Well, now I know you've told me over the years that you were a bit of a tomboy.
Always.
And there's a story about the garage doors in back having three windows across the top, and you wanted to experiment with those windows and your BB gun.
Good grief! Did you tell her that, Ray?
So tell us about that.
All I did was shoot the windows out.
But you wanted to see, did you not, how many windows?
It would go through.
So
the 3 doors came 1, 2, 3. You could pile them up, and it went through all 3 of them. And we were very glad to find out.
Well, now, in your house on Franklin, you had a big basement.
Yeah.
Big enough that you could roller skate.
Oh, mercy, Percy.
And your dad was in the cotton industry, and so there were bales of cotton down there. And you and your brother Charlton had a little game.
We did.
Involving roller skates, cotton, and matches.
That's right.
Tell us about
I had
that.
the matches. And he was chasing me round and round, so I just threw a match over in the middle of the cotton. I never thought about it catching fire, but it did. And Mama was upstairs taking a nap, and she came to the door and she said, I smell smoke from somewhere. And we said, it's just a little bit of flame down here, we're putting it out. Well, the flame got bigger and bigger, and we finally had to get great big cans of stuff of water to use, and thank goodness that was the washroom downstairs. So we finally got it out, but the smell was terrible, and we got blessed out for that. And of course I had done most of it, so I guess I catch the worst end all the time.
I know that you had a good relationship with your brother Charlton, but there was a time when you hit him over the nose with a baseball bat.
No, I did not hit him with a baseball bat.
He told me you would deny it.
Huh? I don't remember ever hitting him. He's the one that hit me in the head with the rock, and we had to cut all my hair off on that side. And I've got the scars still up there.
You got the scars to prove it. And all he has is a deviated septum.
He did have, and when he joined the Navy, he came home from, I believe they were in Illinois where he went for his training. And he came home and he said, I almost didn't get in on account of you. He said, I can't breathe out of one side of my nose. And he said, what I had to do was go through all that training just with one nostril. He said, that's all I had. And he said, it's your fault, and if I don't pass and get in the Navy, I'm really going to get mad. He was in for 4 years and did beautifully.
Great. Well, now there's another story about
Where
Blowing
are you
Rock.
hearing all these?
I will never give up my sources. But you and Pinckney Rankin were at Blowing Rock, and there was a church.
Our whole families we had 3 families, Tugger Wilson's family, our family, and Pinckney's family. It was a depression, and we all had to rent a house together in order to go, because you just didn't have the money.
And there was a church, and there was a rock, and there was you and Pinckney, and something happened. Tell me about that.
Oh, it's me again. Pinckney was afraid of everything. And at night, Mama, I've never forgotten, I have to tell this first. Pinckney always made straight A's. Well, now, I never did that. And my mother said, Jean, why in the world can you not make straight A's like Pinckney? And I said, Mama, Pinckney can't do things I can do. I said, you realize I have to walk him home at night because he's scared. And I said, he won't go in his house unless somebody's in there. And I said, there are other things Pinckney can't do. And I said, I can do all those things. She never asked me about my A's again, so that was good. But Pinckney, we were all in the yard talking up at Blowing Rock, and I said, I can throw a rock over that church. And they bet I couldn't. So I picked up the rock and I threw it as hard as I could throw it, and it went right through one of the big windows. Well, it was my fault. So that's how we came out.
Well, you know, all these stories, it occurs to me you actually could have had a very successful career in crime.
I could have.
If you hadn't stayed on the straight and narrow, but we're glad you did. So I understand that you're a big fan of jazz.
Oh yeah, I love
Yes.
jazz.
And you have been for a long time. So tell us who some of your jazz heroes are and the ones that you actually got to see when you were a young woman.
We didn't see them until they were up good age because nobody came to Charlotte at that time. But finally, Lionel Hampton, R.E. Shaw, all of them came to Charlotte, and we would go over and see them and hear them. And I just loved them. And I've got every record you can imagine. But I'll have to tell you one funny tale on Scott Roberts. He took us over one night to see this fellow we've never heard of, and it was really good. And so coming out, he had a young drummer in the band who was great. But I never thought anybody was any better than Gene Krupa on the drums. And so on the way out, I said, well, I'll tell you, Gene Krupa beats that boy. He said, who is Gene Krupa? That's when I finally realized there was a big divide between all our ages. And so I told him, I said, I'm gonna get him and Buddy Rich and play all the records for you that they're on because they are marvelous. And he's never come to listen to them yet. I don't know whether they ever find out who Gene Krupa was.
Did you not take a train trip out west to see one of your jazz heroes?
Mm-mm,
Okay.
not that I know of.
That darn source of mine.
Somebody told you wrong.
Okay. Well, you were very involved in the Girl Scouts, both as a girl and as an adult. So tell us one of your favorite memories as a girl in the Girl Scouts.
I loved all of them. We had the Brownies, Margaret Brown and I did. And neither one of us, at that time, they didn't give you any training of what you were supposed to do. But Margaret was a school teacher, so she could get their attention, and then I could teach them what they wanted to learn. And so it all went along fine until it was time for them to graduate to the big girls. And they couldn't wait to have the ceremony. Well, we didn't know any ceremony. So when it got to that day, we just hugged every one of them and told them we loved them. And they said, well, when are we going to fly up? I said, we're supposed to fly up. And we said, we're going to have to study that and then come back to you. So we did do that. But it was right cute. But all the girls were good, and they had problems. And the brownies, they will share their problems with you, which is good. And I'm not going to say the one I was going to say because I'm not going to quote a name, but one of the girls' mothers was an alcoholic. And the day that we were in the church to celebrate Girl Scout Day, she came and she was drunk. And I took her aside and I told her, I said, you have embarrassed your daughter. I said, you should not be doing this. And we really had a good long talk. And she finally quit drinking, which was good. But her daughter was embarrassed to death. And it's interesting what you learn from other people, and how you can handle it.
Yeah.
And it really opened up a lot of things for me that I had never known about. So we did real well, I think. Except they never flew up. They just didn't do that.
Now I understand at one point, and I believe you were a girl at this time, there was a flag ceremony and the flag got stuck.
It did.
And you took matters in your own hands, or feet and hands. Tell us.
This was the one at the Girl Scout, at the Camp Rotary. And it got caught at the top. And we couldn't get it down, so I said, Martha, let me go do this. So I just climbed the flagpole and pulled down the flag. And so about 3 weeks after that, Mr. Anderson had a great big business on Franklin Avenue. And his flag was up on top of the building. And he called me and he said, Jean, I was out there when you pulled the other flag down. He said, mine is caught at the top. Would you come do it for me? So I went down to Mr. Anderson's building, climbed his flagpole, and it was high, and got the flag down and gave it to him, and he never forgot it. So I could do almost anything like that.
Well, for anybody who's ever tried to climb a flagpole, you know it's not easy.
Well,
so,
it wasn't hard either.
Wow. I told you, you're amazing. There's also a story you told me about when Camp Rotary caught on fire, and you were part of the team that helped put out the fire.
No.
With water from the pool?
No, I don't remember that. That must have been somebody else.
You didn't do a bucket brigade from the pool?
No, we never did.
Jane.
We didn't. The only thing we had happen was the Sanborn boy and a friend of his had climbed Crowder's Mountain, and they had a gun with them, and why, I've never figured out. And they were handling the gun, and Robert got shot.
Oh.
And so he came down the mountain to the place, bleeding up a storm, and so Fanny Funderburk was the head of it then. She said, Jim Reed, get to Ford. You're going to drive. We're going to put him in the back seat and take care of him until we get him to the hospital. And that's what we did. And it wasn't a bad blow to his body, but he was really in bad trouble. And so we got him in. And on the way into town, I was flying in that Ford. And here went my mother and father by me going the other direction to the camp. And they got to the camp and they said, what is Jean Marie doing driving the Ford and flying down the road like she is? So they told her that Sanborn had been shot and that we were taking him to save him. And then the other thing that was wonderful, Mr. Sam Boyce and a group of his friends always had fox hunts. Well, we were sound asleep in the cabins and heard all this barking and yelling and carrying on. Here came the dogs flying through the thing. They were chasing the fox. The fox went first, the dogs right after him, the men on the horseback. And he did that for 3 years till we finally told him he had to quit coming through the Girl Scout camp. So we had a real good time with that. But no, we never had a fire as far as I know.
Well, the interesting thing about Camp Rotary that people forget is that it was segregated, and black girls had their own camp.
They did.
So I know that that was the just the way things were done in the day, but when you look back on it now, what do you think?
I mean, we never worried about it. We were always nice to each other. There was no problem. And they enjoyed their camping and we enjoyed ours.
And we're going to move ahead in your life now. You graduated from Queens College with a degree in English and History.
Right.
And you spent 2.5 years at Mount Holly News.
Yeah, that's right.
And tell us a little bit about what you did there, but also how it influenced the business that you eventually started.
Well, I always wanted to go into printing. And so the boys, I was the only woman and 9 boys that worked there. And we had a ball. And that's back when we used the linotype machines, which gave you the hot metal, and it came out backwards, so that when it printed correctly. And so they taught me how to read it backwards, and I still can do that to this day. And we had a grand time. I did all the proofreading. We had 2 full papers that we put out each week, and another one, but Mr. Lawrence, who owned the papers in Charlotte, he always did the Times over there. But thanks goodness they had all the legal stuff in that paper. And so I just read the Belmont News and the Mount Holly News, and did it. And then we did a lot of printing for companies in and around Mount Holly, and so I learned real well.
Well, tell us about your business, as I want to make sure we do that before we run out of time. You started with a printing press that your dad helped you get, and then it just went from there. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I told him what I wanted to do, and he loaned me the money, and we bought a Chandler and Price press, and Jake Gray, Mr. Jake Gray's mills had closed down there, so I was in the bottom part of the mill, and Mr. Huffstetler made parts for the mill, so he was right above me. And so I started down there. I called on everybody I knew and everything, and I did pretty good, but I wasn't getting the business I wanted to get. And so finally, Daddy asked me, Bryant Electric was right across the street. He said, "Have you been to Bryant Electric?" I said, "I have been over there time after time, and I've waited, and the fellow leaves me sitting in the room for 2 hours and then says he has nothing he can give me." So I said, "Daddy, I'm not getting any business from him, but I'm doing the best I can do. I'm going to keep going." So he happened to run into old Mr. Bryan and told him that I had this shop across the street. That's when I moved down to the house next to Tony's. And he said, Mr. Bryant looked at him and he said, "Jonathan," said, "you don't realize that when my father started in business, your daddy helped finance him." He said, "I can do the same for y'all." And he did. And within a week's time, I had Bryant's business, all because of Mr. Bryant and my dad. So that makes a difference. And so I went from there. I stayed there. I figured up I had been in business 63 years when I finished up. But this company bought me out from Charlotte that was competing with the AAA group. And so I sold my stuff to them, and then I took my stuff to the house and sold from there. And then I did get a building and got started, and that's how I did it. And I like an idiot, I sold my name with the first sale I had. So I had to change it, and I changed it to Torrence Stationery and Printing. So that worked out fine.
And then you moved into your house, and then you moved to where most of us remember you in the Gem of Ashley.
That's right. Well, that was due to Ring.
And we were all sad to see you end that incredible era. But
Well, you know, we really and truly got out at the right time because 3D printing came along, and we would have had to have bought all types of new equipment and everything else, and Ring was itching to quit, and I didn't mind quitting, and so we just stopped. And I took all the plates that I had, we stored all the plates all the time, so they could just call in and order what they wanted, and we'd send the plate off and get it done. And it really was, it was just an easy exit, I thought. And we gave all the plates back to the people that had them there, and it was amazing.
well, I'm glad you're getting rest, but we do miss you. And so, Jean, as we wrap this up, there are a couple of questions I want to ask you. In your 90-plus years of living, what's the most incredible thing you have ever seen?
Gosh, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I've seen everything I've wanted to see, and I've done everything I wanted to do. And I would just say my whole life, and I go to bed at night, and I always thank the Lord that I had the parents I did who taught me right from wrong, even though I was always in trouble. And so that's the best thing I can say.
And do you have any regrets of things that you did do or didn't do?
One thing, and I'm not going to tell you what it was.
Okay, fair enough. Do you have any advice for any of us of any age?
No, except that I do wish more people would help people who really need it. It worries me that everything now is have a fund for this, have a fund for that, save money, help somebody bury somebody, have somebody do something else. When actually, in a neighborhood where people love each other and get along, you ought to be able to handle the problems locally. And I don't know that we do that well. Now, maybe they do better than I think they do. But in our neighborhood, we always took care of each other and had a good time.
And what do you think is your greatest accomplishment?
I have no idea. Except that I have been amazed at how many people I became who was the person that did all the things to help people. What's the word I'm trying to use?
Philanthropist?
Well, no, but who help women do things and all. Anyway, if everybody would just do one or two people and help them, we would be better off.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've seen so much, I couldn't tell you which is best.
Okay. Well, your nephew Charlton paid you a very high compliment, and I don't know that he meant it as a compliment, but he told me that a person could walk into a room, a gathering, an event, and know immediately that you, Jean Marie, were there because of your laughter.
They've been making fun of my laughter all the time, but I can't help it.
But I think that is a beautiful thing to be known for your laughter, because you've brought so much of it into people's lives and into this studio today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for being here, Jean.
All right. Well, I'm glad I said yes.
Me too.